I am here again with another friend of mine who found himself at a place in life where he was facing things that only Jesus could change. And his name is Michael Courtney. Michael, how are you, bud?
Doing great.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 63, soon to be 64. Just recently retired from the federal government. I'm retired military as well. Spent a couple of years on the road traveling with my wife, living out of an RV.
Right.
And we've got family here. And we stayed here over the winter, which was probably a little too long. Mama grew a taproot here, so we bought a house and decided this was where we were going. It was always where we were going to stay.
Right.
But that's what we did.
So you shared with me some about your life. Kind of lead me into the bigger struggles of your life that if it wasn't for Jesus, your life wouldn't be where it's at today.
Wow. So I accepted Christ when I was 12 and was pretty involved in my church. Was involved in witnessing, learned how to, did a lot of street witnessing, cold contact. That was back in the days in Dallas when that ministry was big, and I'm struggling for the name of it right now.
So there's EE, CWT.
Evangelism, Explosion,
yeah.
CWT, all of that. Married my high school sweetheart, went into the military, and sitting around listening to young guys. I got married got married at 17, went into basic training 2 months before my 18th birthday.
Wow.
So got out of tech school, went to our first duty station. You sit around and you're listening to all these young guys talking about their escapades and what they're doing as they're out exploring their young adulthood. You start thinking, I think maybe I'm missing out.
So let me pause you there, because in years and years of being a pastor, the number of men and women I've sat with who will evaluate their life and look back and go, I missed my opportunity to experience, you fill in the blank.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know now that I really missed anything. But I started listening to me, and I started listening to the others. And so I thought I was missing something.
Wow.
And so one day I decided that I had orders to go to Korea. And I thought, if I just take a break, a pause, send my wife home, when I come back, we can put it all back together. And so I asked her for a divorce.
And you're how old when this happened?
I was 20.
Married at 17, asking for a divorce at 20.
And had a child.
And oh, wow. And I want to hit the pause button again, because you're not a guy with no spiritual maturity at this point. You have come up right.
Yes.
Come up strong, and yet there's never a time in our life when the battle isn't real.
No. There's not.
So 20, you asked for a divorce.
Asked for a divorce. Went to Korea and pretty much lost myself. Lived like the world. As a matter of fact, one of the worst things that was ever been said to me was said to me in Korea. Sitting there having a beer, talking to a man about God, and he looked at me and said, "You're a Christian?" And it cut me so deep that it made me start really evaluating what I was doing.
Wow.
So decided that I would change things and go back and get my wife. But when I got back, it was too late.
Wow.
It was too late.
Wow. So now when you go back and you try to put things back together, how old are you?
I'm 21. I turned 21 in Korea.
21, come back, try to put things together, and she says no.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So what happened? What did life look like then?
So I'm still in the military, so I go to Austin and continue on with my life. I eventually get remarried,
Okay.
She gets remarried. We go about life. 20 years go by.
20.
20 years go by.
So during this 20-year period, do you have any kind of healthy relationship with God, or are you just kind of doing your own thing?
So, yeah, very much so. So, in Austin, I get remarried. I'm going to church. The woman that I marry, because I'm going to be involved in church. She didn't know Christ, comes to know Christ.
Okay.
We go to church. We go to Las Vegas, where I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. I'm very involved with the church out there. Become the adult Sunday school director out there. I'm filling the pulpit when the pastor's gone, leading ministry worship teams. Go to Glorietta, become nationally certified to train, CWT, all of that. But things aren't right. It's just not right for me. And I'm very dissatisfied in my marriage. And things start falling apart.
Okay.
In my marriage. And it wasn't because I think either one of us were doing anything wrong.
That fly is giving you fits over there, man.
He likes my beard oil.
Uh-huh.
But I found myself in another dark place, And
so tell me, if you can, what you mean when you say dark place?
I kind of was going through the motions, If I was to go back now, I was two different people. I was one person at church and a different person at work.
Oh, brother. Listen to one of the messages in the series, because we're doing this weeks before the series gets here. It's called The Middle is Miserable.
Right.
When you get stuck in the middle, you can't give yourself, you can't fully be involved and engaged in anything, that the middle is a miserable place to be.
Yeah. And it was just an ugly, ugly place. And 9/11 happened. And I was in the reserves. I had gotten off active duty and I was in the reserves. I was working for an insurance company. 9/11 happened and I got recalled to Washington, D.C. And while I was in D.C., me and my wife decided that
it's over.
It's over. We're done. The separation was kind of like, okay, this was it.
It was amicable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going to go to my aunt and uncle's 50th wedding anniversary, which was in Kansas City. My parents, who lived in Dallas, were going to be driving through. And I had just had my first grandchild. And I called my son, who lives here, goes to church here, and said, hey, if mom and dad come by and pick you guys up, can you bring the grandbaby by? Because I'm going to fly to Kansas City. Love to see the grandbaby. And they were like, sure. So I flew into Kansas City. They flew up. And my daughter-in-law was like, I asked, how's mom? How's things, this, that? And my daughter-in-law, she's like, you know what, Dad? She's always asking about you. You need to call her.
Wow.
And I was like, well, you've got my number and my email address. I'm not going to, you let me know.
How many years gone by?
20.
20 years at this point. Okay.
20 years. And so at work one day back in D.C., I get an email from my daughter-in-law, and I open it up, and she says, Mike, this is not Kim, this is Kathy, blah, blah, blah. And so we spent about 4 months talking. And
long-distance relationships can be really good, brother, because
really,
you have to talk.
Yeah. We spent about 4 hours a night, every night on the phone. And we came to the place where it's like, okay, it's time. We meet. Flew her out to D.C. I flew her back home. That was a week before Thanksgiving. I flew her home, said, you need to get your stuff in order, because when I come home, we're doing this.
We're going to get married.
And we did.
So I'm going to summarize this. You got married at 17, divorced at 20, remarried at 22. I don't even know how long that marriage lasted. I never even asked you that.
It's about 20 years.
20 years.
Right at 20 years.
20 years there. That relationship ends, and God brings the woman you initially fell in love with and married back into your life.
Yes. And I believe with all my heart, the woman God first intended me to be with.
I love that statement because, you can catch a lot of judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
For being married, being divorced, but your statement that that's the woman God originally meant for me, my life got off track.
Yeah.
But I got back, right? So here's what I want to ask you, Mike. At what point did you realize I'm not going to be able to make this life work without Jesus?
There's been a couple of points.
Okay. I love that too. That's good.
There's been a couple of places in life where you go, this is not. Sitting in a room in Songtong-si, South Korea, mulling over the words of somebody that says, "You're a Christian." I was like, wow. Jesus, what do you see? What am I doing to you? Wow.
A holy moment in a bar.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you don't put him back on the cross, but boy, sometimes it feels like it.
Right. Right.
Sometimes it feels like it. And it's funny because in those 4 months when my wife and I were talking, she says, "We're not doing this without Jesus." And I said, "You're right."
And she's got a sweet spirit too.
Oh,
yeah. It's
man,
deep. With still water runs deep.
She's a prayer warrior. I tell people all the time, you don't want her praying against you.
How long have you and Kathy been together?
We got married. We surreptitiously, without anybody knowing, got married March of 2004.
20 more years.
20 more years. I've been married all my life.
Yeah. Man, that's cool.
So,
there are going to be people out there. We talk to them regularly with relationships that have failed, and it's easy to think this is the end, and it's not. Does it hurt? Yeah. Is it hard? Yeah. Do we learn hard lessons? Yeah. But man, it just stands out that God never gives up.
Yeah.
He's always calling you. He's always there wanting the best for you.
He says he'll never leave you nor forsake you. We can walk away. We can do things that he's not happy with. We can do things that make people look at us and say, "You're a Christian."
Yeah. Wow.
But Jesus is still there.
Mike,
that's why people. Well, I'll just leave it there and get in a whole nother world.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your life.
Thank you.
And somebody out there is going to be blessed.
I hope so.
All right.